specialist thing again. I don't think it's a new thing, but it's been quite active recently in this regard, and it has sparked lots of discussion, lots of interesting discussion actually. Um, Kind of showcases once again that at different levels of the game, of understanding of the game, of different skill levels, you have completely wildly different opinions, and you might even have like utterly different opinions, even amongst the same, more or less amongst players of more or less the same skill level. So the discussions have been interesting. So I decided to give it a try myself as well. And I think in this video I will do only the heroic units and also heroes. I'll try to briefly explain my thought process along the way. And in further videos, probably will also do PowerPoint abilities. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so first unit over here, heroic unit, is Castellans. A disclaimer: I actually did not know that Castellans are considered heroic until people started doing this, and I saw them in this list. Okay, so Castellans. So first of all, I think we should rename this. Let's name this useless, and then we'll have like kinda sorta, then situationally useful maybe, and situationally. What's up with this? Situationally. Am I spelling it wrong? Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, so situationally useful, then pretty good, or like pretty darn good, let's say. Then we've got absolutely fucking bangin', mate, Bannon. Alright, so Castellans. Situationally useful. Excuse me. Situationally useful, I would say, because they have a specific role, which is, I think, against infantry. So that would be, let's say, dwarves, for example, very commonly play exclusively through infantry, in 1 versus 1 games, and Castellans counter that pretty well, I would say. So against other infantry-based strategies as well, they're very useful. So situationally useful against that specific strategy, but I guess not much else, or at least I don't really know any other uses for them. I think they also buff armor to Dol Guldur buildings, so I think, logically that would be of use in defensive situations, or if you're trying to, or if you're built a proxy base and your spire is like a forward spire closer to the enemy's base, I think in that case the Castellan would also be useful. So situationally useful. It's definitely not useless. So I think this is a good choice. Fountain guards, useless. Absolutely freaking useless, because I don't know how to use them. Like, they cost 2,000. You need to also upgrade the fortress to get them, and they don't provide any significant value. They buff buildings by armor, I think. They also give some kind of buff to heroes, although I don't remember exactly what. But that's about it. They're pretty slow. They're tanky. Yes, that's fair. They're quite tanky. You could use them to tank enemy damage, but does it really justify the costs? I don't really think so. Generally, Gondor gameplay, it just doesn't fit into the logic of Gondor gameplay, I would say. That's the final decision on them. Then we have Gilded Guard, the Gilded Guard of Lasgalen. Come on. I mean, come on, like, are you kidding me? S tier, absolutely fucking banging, mate. Like, heroic cav, that is very tanky, that deals insane damage, although it's not heroic damage. Um, Age of the Ring has a system where a unit can be heroic without dealing heroic damage, and on the other hand, some non-heroic units, not heroes, but like units, actually deal heroic damage. So what decides whether a unit is heroic or not is definitely not its damage type. Anyway, so Gilded Guard. I mean, do I really need to say anything more? They absolutely destroy heroes. They're not so good against buildings without their Weeping Blades ability, which ignores armor. But if they run around with Thranduil or something, that can be used for harassment as well. But I mean, they buff heroes. They have the Weeping Blades thing, which is obviously super powerful, and they also, I mean, they get lots and lots of bonuses. I mean, I guess it's standard bonuses, but since their starting default armor and HP is so good, the level up bonuses make it even better, like that much better. Now let's put it that way. So generally S tier. Yeah, that's about it about the Gilded Guards. So next unit is Grey Company. Pretty darn good, I would say. Um, you could say they're situationally useful because if you're playing with the Noldor strategy, then I guess you don't really need them. But if you're playing with the Dunedain strategy, then this unit, I can't say that it's absolutely a must-have, but it's super nice to have because it provides really nice buffs. And also at level 5, it unleashes all of that undefined damage on your enemy's head. If you know, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so in combination with the Dunedain strategy, Halbarad, Strider, Sons of Elrond, all that stuff, all the good stuff. They're very, very good. Also, if you have them in your Dunedain pack, Dunedain stack rather, you can essentially forego building pikes because Dunedain themselves can switch into pikes momentarily. Well, not momentarily, but in a matter of just a couple of seconds. And obviously, the Grey Company itself also can toggle between Archer and melee mode. So yeah, pretty darn good. That's the final verdict. Helmingas. This is very interesting. I feel like this is one of those units which is a hidden gem. And if people find a good use for them, they can be, they will become used much more often. But as it stands, like even I haven't found a good usage for them. I'm saying even I, in the sense of like I myself haven't found it, not in the sense of even I. If I haven't found it, then others couldn't possibly have found it. But yeah, so Helmingas are. I mean, they can be good. They can actually be devastating if used correctly. But I just haven't really like no good ideas of how to use them well yet. But also really good abilities. Ignores pierce damage, buffs your own units, debuffs the enemy. It's quite tanky. Can be used to run around with cavalry, or can be used if you're going with the infantry strategy, since they have 2 modes. They can be mounted or dismounted, so they're very versatile in that sense. But I think when they're mounted, their speed is pretty low, and I think that's intentional. Well, I'm pretty sure that's intentional. So they won't be used as trampling cavalry, but rather as a heavy cavalry, which is like a damage dealer and not a trampler. So the faster cavalry, I guess, is the Rohirrim, and these guys have a very different role to that, which is which makes sense because it's a heroic unit, which gets unlocked from a fortress upgrade. Anyway, so Helmingas I would put in kind of sort of, and if you have any idea of how to properly use them, then I'd be really interested to hear about that. So Bolg's Bodyguard is next. This is an interesting one. I'm kind of tempted to put them in situationally useful first, but I think I'll actually put them in kind of sorta. They're very good, actually insanely good against heroes because these guys actually deal heroic damage, and heroes tend to have less armor. The heroes tend to have lots of armor against pierce slash that kind of stuff, but much less armor against heroic damage, and also magic damage, and some other types as well. But importantly, their default damage is quite high, and it's heroic. So you can imagine, like they melt through heroes like hot knives through butter. So I don't know. Maybe I should put them in situational use. Well, they're also good against buildings, but they die pretty quickly, at least in my experience, to elite archers. Not sure if that's gonna change in 8.0. I guess it will, since elite archers in general will be nerfed. Um, but yeah, I think I'll just leave them in kind of sort of now for now, and decide on it um, in the end. Okay, so Khazad Uzbadul. Hmm, situationally useful, I would say. Again, if you're going with the infantry strategy, which is a very strong strategy, if you're playing with dwarves, then in the late game-ish, sometime around that phase of the game, they're almost a must-have unit since they're very tanky and deal quite decent damage as well, and also have that damage buff which they provide for themselves on each consecutive hit on the enemy. So yeah, and they're not as expensive as these other units. I mean, Castellans also cost 900, Uzbadil also. So these are 2K. I think these are 1.5K, also 1.5K, 900, 1.5K, 2000. But we also need to take into account the various upgrades that you need to make in order to gain access to these units. So anyway, so Uzbadul, this is a hard one. Like I think the error is not in the unit placements themselves, but in the categories. I don't think I've made good categories. But since this is just a for fun thing, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. Contemplating on what type of categories to make here. So anyway, next unit, Uruk, the Isengard heroic units, Uruk Men Slayers, I think they're called. Similar to Fountain Guards, I think they're useless. Not because they're a bad unit. I mean, Fountain Guards aren't a bad unit either. But similar to Fountain Guards, Manslayers don't really fit into Isengard gameplay all that much. Because in late game situations, like if you've got a fully buffed Uruk army with various leaderships and upgrades, then I don't really see why you would need Manslayers. I mean, an Uruk army with leaderships and or um, you know upgrades, armor and forged blades, they can deal with anything. I mean, they can kill heroes pretty easily. They can destroy buildings pretty easily. So, just in the logic of Isengard gameplay, I think these are completely useless units. Like, I'm not entirely sure in what situation you would make them, except just for the sake of making it, or just making them for fun, basically, something like that. So I'll just leave them here and end it at that. So we've got 3 units left, and this video, turned out to be longer than I expected. So I think I'll do the hero thing in the next one, and this will be a shorter one. Anyway, so Morgul Vanguard. Obviously, any heroic cav. I mean, there are just 2 of them in Age of the Ring, but heroic cav in general is just such a powerful unit. By the way, all of this, like the explanations apply mostly to 1 versus 1. In team games, I guess it can be entirely different. But when we're talking about, well, first of all, when we're discussing balance, that's exclusively 1v1 stuff. And I usually tend to, discuss these units and talk about general gameplay also from the perspective of 1 versus 1. So this is no exception, this video. So Morgul Vanguard, absolutely fucking banging. Like, for real. They're amazing, similar to Gilded Guard. They're so versatile. They can kill heroes. They can take down enemy structures. They're tanky. They're very hard to catch. If you're playing on host, and you have decently well controlled, not even like top tier control, but like you control decently well, then Gilded Guard as well as Morgul Vanguard, you're never going to use them. I don't know what kind of controlling ability the enemy needs to throw on you, or what kind of fourth tier, tier four ability for you to lose these units. They level up pretty quickly, especially Gilded Guard, just by impressions. I mean, not mathematically. The experience system, just from the perspective of the experience system, I don't think it's much different. But from actual gameplay, I think Gilded Guard levels up pretty quickly. Morgul Vanguard not so quickly, I guess. But importantly, um, the difference, I guess, the main difference, in favor of Morgul Vanguard is that as Mordor, you want to grade that Spire upgrade in any case if you're going with Witch King, and in most cases you will be going with Witch King if you're facing late game situations. So you need that Spire upgrade anyway because it provides 33 slash 33, meaning armor and damage, to your Witch King and all the other Nazgul, which are just two of them. But anyway, so in the case of Gilded Guard, you don't necessarily need the Fortress upgrade to get them. It's not something critical. But in Mordor's gameplay, the Fortress upgrade that leads to Morgul Vanguard is pretty critical if you're going with Witch King. So these guys, in combination with Witch King, it's just a freaking menace, and they can also run around just with the Mouth of Sauron or the other Nazgul to wreak havoc on the enemy's economy, trample archers, kill heroes that are caught out of position. They're so freaking versatile, so good, high damage, very tanky. So, I mean, no questions asked, really. Absolutely banging. Um, so Nandor, Lorien Nandor, I feel like I mentioned this in the discussion as well that we were having, that Nandor are underappreciated in my opinion. I basically never see them in competitive games, and I guess that has its reasons because Lorien gameplay is also very specific in that most players go with with the pikeman plus archer strategy. But since that entire strategy is going to be nerfed in 8.0, since if you don't know, current Age of the Ring does not have the vanilla 202's armor fix, and so you can stack up your armor very quickly, like super quickly. For example, the formation on pikeman plus statue already gives you armor cap in some situations, which is insane. And next version of Age of the Ring is going to be based on V9, I'm pretty sure. 202 V9. And armor fix in 202, I believe, is from 8.20. Not important from which exact patch it got applied, but the point is that armor fix will be present in Age of the Ring as well, which will make the game a lot more balanced, a lot more active, a lot more aggressive, and just generally a lot more enjoyable. So from that perspective, Lorien gameplay, I mean, not only from that perspective, that's just the smaller reasons. The bigger reason is that Lorien as a faction is entirely redesigned. Well, not entirely, but mostly redesigned. So the combination of those two factors will give you, will result, I hope, in Nandor's, being used more often, I think. So in terms of stats, I would say they're pretty tanky. Well, I would, generally speaking, all of these units are quite tanky, except maybe Bulk's Bodyguard are pretty susceptible to pierce damage, especially from elite archers. Great Company don't really feel like they're super tanky, but that's, by design, and it kind of fits their role as a ranger, ranger unit. But yeah, so Nandor are very tanky and they deal very good damage when they're toggled to axes. I mean, very good damage to buildings when toggled to axes. And their damage type is half heroic and half slash, I think, when they're on sword. And when they're on axe, I think it either switches to siege or they gain a scalar against, a positive scalar against buildings. But I don't remember that at this point. But yeah, so Nandor I would put in pretty darn good. Yeah, I think they deserve a spot over here. And last but not least, Lorethelin, the veterans of the Last Alliance. So this, I feel like this is one of the most controversial units. Some people say that they're very strong. Some others say that they're useless because they don't have splash and they don't really deal that much damage, which is true. They don't. They actually don't deal that much damage. Their damage is set to the vanilla Mirkwood Archer, Elven Mirkwood Archer damage with Silverthorn arrows. And these guys' damage is set to vanilla Mirkwood damage without Silverthorn arrows. So it's just, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad damage, but for a unit that costs 2,500, the damage, I guess, is just not there. Which isn't a balanced critique, because Rivendell itself has like plenty of other sources of dealing damage, but I guess their abilities are decent. They have resistance, and I think they also have an ability that actually gives them splash at level 5 or something. But their main usage would be to just tank. And also, you can build two of them, and you can build only one of these, these, and that's it. And also Fountain Guards, I think. I think Orc Scouts, Orc Men Slayers have a higher limit, not one. Bolg's Bodyguard. You can build two if you upgrade the fortress. Uzbadul. Oh, I don't remember actually Uzbadul. It's definitely not one, but I don't remember if they have a limit. Castellans are capped at 3, I think. Nandor, I don't remember. Grey Company at 1, so all these other 3 at 1. So Lorethelin, similar to Bodyguards, if you have the upgrade in the Rivendell library, excuse me. So if you have the upgrade on the library, you can build, the second battalion of them, and I mean, I guess they go really well with the full-on infantry strategy of Rivendell. If you're going with like Noldor swordsman, a bunch of heroes, and also Lorethelin. But that can be a pain in the ass to deal with for the enemy, especially if you're splitting them on multiple flanks. So Lorethelin, this is a hard one. I guess I would say situationally useful. I actually think they're pretty good. So I'm kind of, torn between putting them in pretty good. And situationally useful, but I think I'll just put them in situationally useful. And yeah, so useless, Orc Men Slayers, Fountain Guards, kind of sorta is Bolg's Bodyguard, and Helmingas, which just lacks a good use case for me. But I'm pretty sure like people who are much better players with Rohan are able to use them very effectively. I just don't know how to use them, so. Castellans situationally useful because they're actually very good at what they're supposed to do. Uzbudul are decent as well. Lorethelin in that kind of medium-ish territory. Pretty good, I would put in my own opinion, in my own experience, whatever. Grey Company, Nandor, Hir Hathol, or something like that. And the absolute S tier, just once you see, they're also such they also have a just a demoralizing effect, I feel like, on the enemy. Like, imagine if you're playing against Woodland Realm and they have a bunch of units, they have some heroes, as they usually do, and on top of on top of everything that Woodland Realm already has in its arsenal, you also see Gilded fucking Guard of Lasgalen on the field Like you're like, man, I better just write GG and leave this game. Like I got no chance against these guys, you know, like um as I said, especially on host, this is basically a unit that just is just next to impossible to counter. And almost the exact same can be said about Morgul Vanguard. Although Mordor, well, Mordor late game is also very, very scary. And but I don't know. I mean, Gilded Guard just has that effect of shit. I'm fucked, you know. So yeah, this would be my choice of heroic units, the tier list of heroic units. And next, I think I'll do heroes. But yeah, I'm just gonna end the video and this video here, and see you all on the next one.